I did not know this was a thing, but Baker Mayfield is now chirping he wants an extension, and they're not anywhere close. Colin, at $33 million, he ranks 16th among highest paid quarterbacks in the league. From my point of view, that's about where he ranks. But Baker spoke this morning about a new contract, and this does not sound good, Tampa fans.
Contract stuff, it's happening, starting, the talks and whatnot, but not anywhere close to what, we were thinking. So would love to be here long term. And as of right now, that's not exactly the case. Obviously, yes, I would love to have a long-term deal done, but they know my deadline is as soon as training camp starts, we're not doing any contract stuff. It's all ball. So it's not up to me when that gets done by. But so hopefully before that.
Can we get him on the show today, too? We'll get the governor of Indiana and Baker. Well, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'm willing to bump headlines for Baker Mayfield final hour. How about that? That's a trade. Colin, I'll just say this. This is fascinating. Minnesota gave up on Sam Darnold. He got a middling contract and won a Super Bowl. There's several teams out there that need a quarterback. And Baker, you slot him in. And if you've got the infrastructure, that's a contender. I don't think Tampa's a contender. I don't even think they're the best in their division. But this becomes interesting.
Listen, you need to pay Baker. You don't know if Todd Bowles is going to be around long. You're shuffling through offensive coordinators. You just lost Mike Evans. You need to pay Baker. You got to give me. You may have to pay him a little more than you want, but Baker Mayfield's good enough to win a division.
Yeah. This discussion always becomes incredibly tricky because we have no idea what his actual asking price is. For all we know, he could be demanding $60 million. And for all we know, the Buccaneers might only want to offer him $30 million. We simply have no clue. And it's extremely difficult to get any reliable information. It could also come down to guaranteed money, right? Or it could be about the contract length, because he specifically stated, "I want to be here for a long time." And the Bucs might have said, "Hey, we'll give you 2 years for $90 million. And he responded, "I don't want 2 years. I want a 4-year deal. I want 4 years, and I want a certain percentage of it guaranteed." So sometimes the disconnect isn't just about the raw dollar amount, it's about the term, it's about the guarantees. It's just too difficult to know. But I talked about this maybe a month or so ago and said that this contract situation is going to be really, really fascinating because we're about to truly find out how the NFL wants to operate. Baker Mayfield is such an intriguing quarterback being paid an intriguing amount of money. So I really want to break this down even further now that we have more information. Before I do that, Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans, please, please, please don't forget to subscribe and watch the full-length video. When you do that, view counts go through the roof, subscribers go through the roof. And it's not about chasing views or chasing subscribers. It's about being able to create Tampa Bay Bucs content that people genuinely want to watch and discuss, so we can keep having the most unbiased, grounded, honest conversations about this team. It really makes a huge difference, and I truly appreciate it. So, yeah, there are a few things here. First, Baker has both leverage and none at all. Because he's essentially saying, the Bucs know my deadline. It's up to this point, and after that, it's all football. We're not talking anymore. And that's him trying to put pressure on them to get a deal done. But I don't think the Bucs need to feel that pressure at all. It's not like Baker is such a critically important quarterback, or that the Bucs are going to be backed into a corner where they think, "Oh man, if he plays really well this year, we'll have to pay him $70 million annually." I don't see that type of scenario unfolding. On the flip side, Baker is publicly saying, "We're not anywhere close." And that's a very specific thing to say out loud about a team you're trying to negotiate with, a team you claim you want to be with long term, a team you say you have a great relationship with and want to continue building and improving that relationship. Yet now you're going to publicly announce that their offer isn't even close to what you want. That's also problematic. And I'm not even saying Baker shouldn't do that. It's just not how I would personally handle it. And it's not my favorite way to negotiate in public, because I don't think Baker has as much power as he believes he does. I think Baker is a really good quarterback. I don't think he's spectacular. I don't think he's elite. And I've said this a million times now, because I think Orlovsky summed it up perfectly, don't treat him like he's Josh Allen. And I've obviously praised Baker and criticized Baker at different points. There are plenty of moments when Baker does things that genuinely impress me, and I think, yeah, man. Listen, I was ready to knock you for this or that, and then you completely bailed out the play. Baker can be genuinely impressive. And I think if you have a strong enough roster around him, you'll be very competitive and you can absolutely win football games. But Baker is not an absolute game changer. He's not an absolute franchise-defining quarterback. And if you're not that, at the end of the day, I think you only have so much leverage. Because the Bucs have already gone through the phase of we're just trying to be competitive. They won their Super Bowl with Tom Brady, they transitioned out of that, and now they're just trying to stay competitive, just trying to avoid becoming a lost cause. And they've done that for a few years now. Baker deserves huge credit for that, he's a big reason why. But that's not the goal. The goal isn't to keep doing that forever. This is what I said to Vikings fans, the goal is not just to be kind of competitive and right the ship after losing Sam Darnold. The goal is to be an actual Super Bowl contender, and not just a contender but to actually win a Super Bowl. And I fundamentally do not believe that Kyler Murray is that kind of quarterback. So could Kyler Murray come to Minnesota and be competitive, give you some fun games, and provide a better season to cheer for than last year? Absolutely. But that's not what it's about. That's what the last few years were about when you had Sam, when you had Cousins. That's not the objective anymore. You're trying to build something special. You're trying to win it all. So when I look at Baker, he's not that defining characteristic. He's not the guy who elevates a franchise to that level. And as J-Mac was saying, lots of teams need a quarterback. But it depends on what you're trying to do. The Jets need a quarterback, but they want to draft one. The Cardinals need a quarterback, but they also want to draft one. All these teams that potentially need a quarterback, they're thinking, we want to draft a quarterback because we're looking to build something truly special, and then we'll have the rookie quarterback deal, etc., etc. So I don't even know. And again, I do think there will be plenty of opportunities for Baker, but not necessarily for more money than the Bucs would be willing to give. So that's where I'm trying to figure this whole thing out. Let's just run through the teams. The Buffalo Bills don't need a quarterback. The Miami Dolphins just got Malik Willis, they don't need a quarterback. The New England Patriots don't need a quarterback. The Jets do need a quarterback, but they have every intention of drafting one in the upcoming draft. The Ravens don't need a quarterback. The Bengals don't need a quarterback. The Browns, that's technically the most interesting one. Maybe there's a full circle moment, but it's hard to believe. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to keep doing this thing where they keep revisiting quarterbacks who've been around the league for a while. They also want to draft a quarterback, and they've already technically drafted a couple. The Houston Texans, now, that could technically be the most interesting one. That could be the most interesting one, okay. I don't think the Colts do, because they seem fully behind Daniel Jones. Jacksonville, they're not moving off Trevor Lawrence. Tennessee, they still have at least a couple more years to figure out if Cam Ward is their guy. And then the entire AFC West? No. So the Houston Texans, we'll come back to them. Then you have the Dallas Cowboys, you're not moving off Dak for Baker, that makes no sense. The Giants have Jackson Dart, again, they have at least a couple more years to ride that out and confirm he's their guy. The Eagles, even if they move on from Jalen Hurts, they're not going to take Baker Mayfield. That's just not how they've ever operated. I don't see how that's possible. Washington, they're riding with Jaden Daniels until the wheels fall off. Chicago, obviously taken. Detroit, obviously taken. Green Bay, obviously taken. Minnesota, again, you're going to do the Kyler Murray thing or the Sam Darnold thing, I don't see that continuing the same way. Atlanta, that's an interesting one. Carolina, again, could make it slightly more interesting. Not the Saints. Obviously more relevant to the Bucs. Arizona, Rams, San Francisco, Seattle, none of those teams make sense. So theoretically, if you're talking about a team like the Houston Texans, and you really reach the conclusion that C.J. Stroud isn't the guy, we're not moving forward with C.J., but we have an elite defense, a really good coaching staff, we're ready to win now, we don't want to draft a quarterback, we don't want to play that game, we need a quarterback who can actually play, which is essentially what the Seahawks were when they got Sam Darnold. In that situation, you could bring in Baker. But I still don't think it would be for $60 million a year, especially because the Texans would also have leverage. They'd say, buddy, do you see how elite this team is? Do you see this coaching staff? We're putting you in a position to potentially win a Super Bowl. So you'd have to meet somewhere in the middle. Both sides would have leverage. And that, to me, would be the most, and to be clear, I'm not knocking CJ Stroud or pushing him out the door. I'm just saying, where do we stand here? And then technically some of these other interesting scenarios, again, Atlanta, Kevin Stefanski, maybe. There's a full circle handshake moment. Stranger things have definitely happened. Mike McCarthy is the head coach of the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. Things happen. Who knows? Again, Carolina could technically be in a similar situation as the Texans. We have an awesome team, we feel great about what we've built, we've gone all in, but Bryce Young just isn't the guy to elevate us, and we want a ready-made quarterback who can make us genuinely and consistently competitive. And you think, okay, I can see those doors, but they're not as wide open as some people try to make them out to be. And that's why the Bucs are saying, we want you to be our quarterback. So I wonder, is it a money thing, or is it about term? Are the Bucs thinking, hey, we enjoy what we're doing here, but we still want to prepare for the future, so we don't want to be on the hook with you for the next 4 years. We think you're a good quarterback, not an elite franchise-defining one. Or is it that Baker is saying, no, I want 4 more years, and they're saying, we'll happily do 4 years but only at $40 million, and Baker responds, buddy, I'm the starting quarterback. I've gotten us to the playoffs. I've won playoff games. You owe me a minimum of $50 something million. What are we talking about? I'm better than Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold just won a Super Bowl and everyone knows he's underpaid. We both got similar deals. Build a good enough team, I outdueled Sam Darnold and the Seahawks. That's what I did. So I'm better than the quarterback who just won a Super Bowl, and you want me to take less? That's why I wish we could get more reliable information. Because you really start guessing, and any other information you hear always feels fuzzy, always feels a bit weird, always difficult. That's why I take Baker's words at face value. He clearly thinks he has a lot of leverage because he's saying, I'm giving the Bucs a hard deadline. We're not negotiating past this point. This is my cutoff. So come back with the offer we want. Otherwise, I'll just play it out. So Baker feels very confident. And he's saying publicly, we are not anywhere close. He basically said they showed us an offer that wasn't even close to what we expected. So what exactly does that mean? How does this deal get done? Because again, for someone like Baker, really any quarterback, the less money you get paid, the more valuable you can be to your team. And Baker is definitely worth way more at his current level of play, $40 million a year. He's not worth that at $55 or $60 million a year. And you can argue that there are plenty of quarterbacks getting paid that amount who shouldn't be. So you can't just look around the league. I think Colin had one of the best takes years ago when Lamar Jackson wanted a fully guaranteed contract because that's what Deshaun Watson just got. And Colin said, I'm not going to use the Cleveland Browns as a reference point. I'm not going to use a franchise that's terrible and keeps making bad decisions as a model. So just because the Dolphins paid to a $200 something million doesn't mean I'm going to do that. Just because other teams paid Jordan Love or Brock Purdy doesn't mean we have to. That's a smart way to look at it. So this is definitely a messier situation than meets the eye. I find it absolutely fascinating because we've been stuck on autopilot. Oh, you're a quarterback, you get paid top dollar. You get whatever the last guy got plus $1 million. And then we started seeing these really interesting contracts, Sam Darnold, Baker, and we saw Daniel Jones set up to do the same. And you realize, wow, there's actually tremendous value here. Who would you rather have, Trevor Lawrence? Maybe people deep down believe Lawrence is better than Baker, and if you're watching this you probably don't believe that, but let's say it's true. You could argue Baker is way more valuable to his team at a $100 million contract compared to $200 million. That's what makes it so fascinating. And if that's truly the reality of the situation, then a team like the Jets might say, we want you to be our quarterback. We don't want to play the rookie game, but we'll pay you $100 million because that puts us in position to win a Super Bowl. But if Baker says, that's great, but I don't want to be part of that game. I understand you think that's great, but that's not what I want. Again, I don't know. It becomes a tricky situation, almost unsolvable to a degree. So I've been fascinated ever since I realized this is where we were headed. This is going to set the bar. This is going to set the tone. Baker has had some quality seasons. Again, I don't think he's an elite, unstoppable quarterback. I think even if he had a stacked, great team, they'd be great and could definitely win, but I'm not overwhelmingly confident. That's just my personal view of Baker. But I also know Baker isn't trash either. So how does Baker get a contract at this moment, with these few years under his belt with the Bucs? What does this ultimately look like right now? It's going to be really interesting. If the Seahawks were ready to renegotiate Sam Darnold's contract, and he just won a Super Bowl, how much are they paying him? Sam could easily say, "Buddy, I just won a Super Bowl. You're underpaying me. Let's renegotiate right now." And the way the NFL works, he'd be within his rights. Oh, you have to honor your contract. That's not how the NFL works. That's not how any of this works. So, really interesting. Really, really, really interesting. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about Baker and the Bucs? Have you heard how far apart they are, what the actual issue is? Is it years, guarantees, salary? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment, whether you agree or disagree. Either way, let's get into some discussions, get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you be part of it. I want to build something we all feel connected to, something we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, it really helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.